So I guess we'll wait for folks to come on in.
Yeah. I can only imagine which article you have up.
I have USA Today.
Oh, okay.
I have USA Today, and I'm actually really just astounded by the little bit I've read. I haven't really, been following the Seresto stuff.
You don't use these.
Yeah. So
and
folks are coming on in. So
good.
Thanks you guys for coming on in. It's working. We have a name. So yeah. You gotta love these glitches that we experience every now and then.
Well, lessons learned. Be Live can't cope with a group.
Yes, I know. Well, what's funny is that if I did it to my page, it would automatically go to my group, but it didn't like me just going directly to my group. Wow. So maybe I'll send them an email later and ask them about it.
That seems wise.
But good morning. Happy Saturday, everyone. Before we get started and everything, I want to give you guys 2 updates. One, if you haven't done so already, head over to animalio.info. That is where I get my essential oils, and they are having a flash sale this weekend on strength and warmth. Strength is something that I give to my dogs, or I don't give it to them, but I put them on my dogs or diffuse in the house when my dog is recovering from something. Or like for Rodrigo, he has arthritis along his spine. Sydney has arthritis in her joints and her ribs when she was alive. And so those were essential oils that were really great for them. I also diffuse them in the house. Warmth I use as something to help calm my dogs down and relax them. So that is something that I either put on my hands and massage it, or like on their chest so they're breathing it in, or I diffuse it in the house. So head on over, get those deals. I ordered 2 bottles of each, 15 milliliters. I think that's what it is. And yay. Okay. So that was one announcement. The other announcement is Scout's doing great. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So
well, it needs to be said.
Yes, he is doing great. So we're talking about Seresto today. So Seresto collars and I remember learning about these collars probably when a couple years into, 2 or 3 years into blogging about dogs. They were, working with bloggers to promote their collars. And so I saw them, and I actually was really curious about them, and I would have probably given them a try, but at the time, and actually still to this day, my dogs didn't wear collars. So my thought was that they would not like them. It would bug them because they're not used to wearing collars. So I just never bothered with them. And now today, years and years later, I'm just going to read one thing to you. Popular flea collar linked to almost 1,700 pet deaths. The EPA has issued no warning. And this is an article that was published a few days ago on USA Today.
And I'm just going to put this out there. Go to my blog about why I don't recommend Seresto collars. I wrote it. I told people this in 2017. And I've got the FOIAs, the data. This has been going on way, way too long. And I am so grateful that USA Today, and they're working with a investigative journalist group called the Midwest Investigative. It's in the article, Investigative Group. I'm so glad they put this out on a national level to really say, hey, this has been going on and EPA is doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, and there's a link to the article in there too, in that blog. So if you want to see the USA Today article easily, it's in there.
Yeah, and I have it right
now. You got it too.
I
Excellent.
just put in the USA Today article, and then the article that is on Healthy Dog Workshop, which is Dr. Kozier's website. And it's interesting because I'm an admin on Dr. Kozier's page, and probably at least 3 days a week, I get a notification there's been an update to your information about Seresto. So this has been going on for a long time. I've only known about it because of Dr. Kozier. No one else is talking about this that I've seen.
I get an email a day or a message a day. This happened to my dog, whether it's seizures, illness, hot spots around the collar area, total skin reaction.
Yeah. And I've seen pictures, where it's basically just a raw circle around the neck where the collar sat on some dogs. And it's just, you know, when the times that it has come up in the past, people who have had good success with Seresto will jump in and defend it. But it's one of those things where I think that with everything, there's always going to be people who have no issues whatsoever. Just because one person doesn't have an issue doesn't mean another person will not. And we're doing this video just to put information out there. So you could be going along, your dog has no problems whatsoever, but if someone else is using this collar and their dog is experiencing certain symptoms, maybe this video will make them look at that collar and go, oh. So to get started, what are people seeing after they are using this collar?
Everything from nothing to, as we talked about, skin irritation and reactions at the collar site, seizures, neurologic abnormalities, lumps and bumps. There are also, at least 1,000 human problems reported from, again, people handling the collar. And remember, every time you pet your dog that's wearing a Seresto, you're petting the collar, because the pesticides, the two pesticides that are in the Seresto collar are intended to coat your dog's hair. Mm-hmm. So you're petting your dog, you're petting the collar drugs or collar pesticides. You're sleeping with your dog, like the little boy who's reported in the USA article, slept with a dog wearing a Seresto, started having seizures. You know, you're exposing yourself to those pesticides. Often, you know, my dogs sleep on the bed, your dogs sleep on the bed at an intimate level, you know, or if it's a cat, how many cats love to sleep by your face? So, you know, 6 or 8 hours out of the night, you're breathing in that pesticide.
Yeah.
So I think the USA Today article quotes about 75,000 incident reports, and 1,000 of those were human, and 1,700 dead pets.
Yeah, it says, since Seresto flea collars were introduced in 2012, the EPA has received incident reports of at least 1,698 related pet deaths. Overall, through June 2020, the agency has received more than 75,000 incident reports related to the collars, including nearly 1,000 involving human harm.
Yep. And that's 2020. So even though there are loads of people out there whose dogs do not experience a problem, these are huge numbers for a product. And remember that those collars are labeled for 8 months of efficacy. So there's enough pesticide in there to coat your dog's hair for 8 months. Mm-hmm. The other problem I see with these collars, at least in dogs that come into the hospital wearing them, is that they're not fitting properly. That collar is supposed to be snug on your dog so that it can transfer its pesticide to the hair. I see a lot of them that are loose, and those aren't doing anything but exposing the humans, really. They aren't doing any benefit for the dog. Mm-hmm. Now, the case that tipped me off back in 2017 was one of my client's dogs, a German Shepherd, that started just not being himself and then progressed to the point of seizures. And she was able to connect it to the time frame that she put the collar on the dog. And she took the collar off, and literally 2 days after, the dog was transformed. Yeah. And I've known this dog for many years. He was a working dog. And of course, you know, he did tracking, he did bite the bad guy, all that sort of stuff. He couldn't work, he couldn't function. And post removal of the collar, he went back to his prior performance level. So for me, that was proof enough that these reports have validity, because I saw it with someone I knew well. Yeah.
And I see that in the comments, there's people say, you know, there's a story right here. Yeah. Took it off and the seizures decreased significantly. Sarah says, as a retailer who has never carried these toxic products, I got an email from them on how to encourage and help your customers understand their products are safe. And it's just like, wow.
And just to point out, the Seresto collar was developed and initially owned by the Bayer Corporation.
Mm.
And they recently sold the collar to another company called Elanco.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the correspondence you'll see right now from Elanco, and I do have Elanco's official response to veterinarians or people who, I'm sure this is the same as the pet store because it's not a vet exclusive product. If anybody wants to read it, hit me up with a message. I'll link you to it. They're totally denying everything.
Well, this is interesting. Further in the USA Today article, it says the EPA is in charge of regulating products that contain pesticides. The agency has known about these incidents for years, but has not informed the public of the potential risks associated with this product, said Karen McCormick, a retired EPA employee who worked as both a scientist and communications officer.
Right. She's the whistleblower on this whole thing.
She said the collars have the most incidents of any pesticide pet product she has ever seen. And this is a quote from her. The EPA appears to be turning a blind eye to this problem. And after 7 years of increasing number of incidents, they are telling the public that they are continuing to monitor the situation. But I think this is a significant problem that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And there is a publication, I think it's called American Canine or something. They're calling it Collargate and saying that she was paid off and making all sorts of allegations, which, maybe she is. I can't say no. I don't know her.
But separate from that is the information you've gathered over these years. And so
if anybody wants to see it again, hit me up with a message. I have the original PDFs that I filed a Freedom of Information Act request to get that show the incidences, and it's kind of like a giant spreadsheet, but it says, this was the case, this was the complaint, this was the product. And there's thousands and thousands of reports. And I believe those started from they were like 2015 to 2017, if memory serves. It's on the top of the sheet.
Yeah.
But again, all these emails and messages that you see, you got a message. Hi, Dr. Koger. I read about the Seresto collar on your website. This is what happened to my dog.
Right.
Day after day after day.
So I'm putting a doctor on your name.
Oh, thank you.
You're Dr. Lori Koger. So, one thing that I find interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people are now thinking, okay, so we can't use these Seresto collars. I don't want to take the risk. What do I use instead? And Janet, you brought up a really excellent point here of, people want 0 ticks and 0 fleas. And I completely understand. I mean, the whole idea, but life is our dogs are going to get ticks. They're going to get fleas, depending upon where you live. It's, Janet says here that she tries to explain to build the immune system and use some natural repellents to withstand the assault.
Sure.
And many are not willing to have any ticks at all and choose the poisons.
Yeah. And, people are always asking me what to use. And it kind of comes across sometimes, well, you told us we can't use this. You told us you can't use that. What are we supposed to use?
Yeah.
And I tell them on my dogs, I use nothing. I use all the other good health techniques that we talk about all the time in natural diet, in supporting the immune system, the microbiome, in not being stupid about where I take my dogs. I don't go off into the pine bush, which is tick central. I find other places. And I know there are people who can't avoid them. But there are always these little things that you can do that in combination will take care of a huge number of them.
Right. And so to start, let's talk about some ideas. Let's start with the main thing, which is feeding a raw food diet. And not to say that feeding raw is going to prevent ticks or prevent fleas, but as I understand it, because it's basically a low carb diet, you don't have a ton of starches and stuff in there, if any at all. Our dogs just aren't as tasty
or as attractive,
as with the processed diet.
One of the things people complain about with their kibble-fed dogs is they smell. Yeah, they're secreting stuff out of their skin that does have an odor, especially when bacteria get on it or yeast.
Yeah.
And I would extend it even to a cooked diet, fresh food that is not chicken and rice. is going to be better than kibble.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, we can go even further. And I do things with, I'm lucky because I live in an area that is, our entire property is covered in sunshine. Like a few shaded areas. And as I understand it, the shade is where the fleas like to live. And so my dogs aren't really spending time laying in the shade that often. But my dogs do have had fleas and I know exactly how to deal with it. So two things that I love, and they're not on sale this weekend, but you go to Animalio to get them, is she has, this is Dr. Melissa Shelton, Away, Oust, and Evict are 3 of her essential oils that repel fleas. And I don't know if they repel ticks too. Ticks aren't an issue that we have where I live. So I'm not in the habit of looking for ticks and stuff. My focus is the fleas, but just sprinkling that on my dogs once a week, massage it into, I don't even really have to massage it into their coat because as they move, their hair acts as a wick, like a candle wick, and it just basically moves the oil all around the body until it eventually coats the body. And this is something that's perfectly safe for my dogs. It's safe to have these in the house with a cat. My dogs may not like the scent of it. I know Zoe is very sensitive to essential oils. She doesn't like the scent, but you know, I can tone it down for her by using you know, coconut oil. But then to go even further, and it's too bad I don't still have a container here, but coconut oil. I mean, take that, massage it into my hands, massage it onto their coat. Coconut oil is a flea repellent. And you know, there's another one. And then of course there are the products on the market. I personally like Kin & Kind. I started using that last year and had amazing success with it. I'm a convert over from Cedarside and Wonderside, which I still think are great products, but Kin & Kind, I just like it a lot better. I like the ingredients. I like the scent. It's not overpowering and it works. So what else are you doing or recommending?
Vigilance and avoidance. You know, avoid going into areas that you know are heavily infested. And if you go there, when you get home, check yourself, check your dog. I'll use a hair roller, you know, those masking tape lint rollers. I'll roll that over my dog and you will pick up tiny little ticks that are on the surface or just under the coat, even in my Aussies, that are not attached yet, and you'll just whip them off. But, you know, run a flea comb through if it's a flea infested area. And then if you're finding a lot, then decide, is a bath in order or what have you.
Yeah.
But, you know, simple vigilance and tick awareness.
Yeah. And if in the summertime, one thing that I'll do is if we do, like, so we got some fleas, not a lot, but I knew we had them because I had bites. Put the dogs outside on a nice day and wash the bedding, vacuum. And then when I'm done cleaning everything, I actually use Febreze. I know Febreze isn't popular for dog people, but Febreze is a flea killer. What's kind of scary is that because it does such a great job of killing fleas and the eggs, why are we using it regularly in our home? But it does. I use it after I do everything. I spritz it all over the bed and on any type of carpet or rug, and let the dog stay outside all day. And I treat that as my, you know, flea bomb. Open the windows to get the scent out of there, and it takes care of the fleas, no problems. Jay here says, and this is interesting, and I'm not surprised by this, that people in the groups in the discussion of Seresto collars are saying the problems are with the counterfeits or the knockoffs, not the regular collar.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's true. I don't know how many knockoffs there were compared to how many real products. My impression of the knockoffs, of the information I have read about them, is that they were just the collar itself. There was no chemical involved. Because what the counterfeit wants to make the cheapest product they can and sell it as the real thing. So I doubt they were putting actually a chemical in there. They were just getting something that looked like it, because you can't smell this pesticide.
Right.
And you can't feel it on your hands. It's not an oil like the spot-ons. And they were making their investment in the packaging and the collar itself looking the same.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I know that there are fake products on Amazon. I mean, for instance, the Nutrimax joint supplement, there's fake versions on Amazon because they don't sell their product on Amazon. And dogs were getting sick because of the ingredients they were using to make that tablet that a dog was going to consume. So I can see how that can happen. The mistakes can be made and a dog can get sick, but I don't see why anyone would even bother investing in chemicals when all you have to do is get the packaging looking the same and the product looking the same.
Yeah, and I think it was Advantage, the Spot On, had a problem with knockoff for a while.
Yeah, Frontline did as well.
And it was just alcohol in the little container, the little tear-off vial or what have you. So, you know, they wanted something that made a spot on the dog's coat, but, you know, that was it. And
this is interesting too. Des says the UK always had warnings on the instructions, but the US didn't.
Well, yeah, Europe is much more aware of pesticides. Actually, probably the rest of the world is, except maybe India and China, than the US. So, yeah. And there are warnings on the website about the collar, about not allowing children to sleep with pets and such that are not on the packaging.
And then Chris Ashmore says, you know, flea-free food supplement. And the thing that came to mind immediately was springtime granules, garlic granules.
Garlic, yeah.
Because
and some people that works. And hey, what a safe alternative.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's just it, is that, you know, with so many of these things, it's a reminder that every dog is unique and what works for one dog may not work for another dog. And so that's why I don't understand bickering about products. You know, some people will tell me, oh, you should never use blank and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, if blank is safe and it works for my dogs, then that's what I'm going to stick with. I'm not going to toss something out that works.
Oh, you should see conversations on the vet boards about, you know, Apoquel or Cytopoint, you know, there's people who have this unbelievable allegiance to product X. And then the other ones of us are like, I would never touch that because you know what happened when I prescribed it? So everybody's mileage varies.
Yeah.
But when you've got this many thousand reports in a short span of time, I think you really have to say, is it ethical to put this thing out on the market at all? Or it's okay, but we need to have this huge warning on it so people are making an informed decision. Exactly.
And so now, ultimately, you know, there are people out there who have no choice but to use flea and tick prevention because they either have a dog that has a flea allergy or ticks are so bad in their area that it's just, the risk is too high. So in those cases, what are your recommendations?
You know, find what works for your dog. I'm a fan actually of the spot-ons in those scenarios for a couple reasons. Number one, with things like Advantix, the flea or the tick does not have to bite your dog. The insect will absorb it through their feet. So you lessen the risk of a bite, which means less irritation to the dog and the allergic dog especially. And if the dog does have a reaction, you can at least to some extent wash it off. Which you can't with, say, the orals. The collar, yes, you could wash that off because that is just on the coat. So that would be one way in which those two products have a similar advantage. Yeah, that's probably where I go. And the other thing is, you know, you can use it just when you need it. Let's say, you know, you're going hiking 4th of July in a tick-infested area. So the week before you use the spot on. And then the rest of the summer you're in the city and it's low risk, don't use anything. You know, targeted timing of using these products, I think, is an advantage.
Yeah, that's something that I experienced when I first started diving into healthier choices for my dogs. It actually wasn't diet, it was the flea and tick repellents.
Really?
And a friend of mine told me, I still remember us talking about this one summer, and she told me instead of using one of the frontline little tubes on each dog, take one, and at the time I had 3 dogs, split it between all 3 dogs, And then the rest of the month, just use natural products. And that was, I started with a natural product that someone made that I met on Facebook, and then switched to Wondercide and Cedarside. And now I do Kin and Kind. So right here with the essential oils, I just want to put this out there. When it comes to essential oils, Animalio is specifically made for pets. And there's a huge book that tells you exactly how to use each of her oils. You can also get this information on her website. And you actually don't need to use carrier oils with all of her oils. I mean, if her oil is neat, which means it's the most pure, those are the ones that I'll diffuse. I would never put those on myself or on my dogs. But the other ones, there's ones that they have the initials RTU, which is ready to use, which means you can use it that way. But if you still have a dog that this is too strong for, and when I say too strong, I don't mean because it's injuring them. I just mean that some dogs don't like that strong scent, and they will walk away and leave the room. In those cases, in some of her oils, she has a light version. Or if a light version is still too strong, or she doesn't have that, then you can dilute it with a carrier oil. But when it comes to Animalio oils, no, you do not need to always dilute them. It's each oil, you treat it a little differently. Diane says, oust. I knew I was missing one. She's oust, evict, and away in rotation along with Kin and Kind and Tick Hex, new to the rotation this year, and Enviro Collars, and only natural pet tick tags. I actually have seen the only natural pet tick tags, and I've always wondered if they worked.
Has anybody used those? I had somebody asking me about that.
Yeah, so if you guys can share your thoughts, good, yay, nay. Yeah, we would love to hear that.
So Animalio in there.
Okay, yeah. Dr. Lawyer, please, Dr. Lori.
I am not a lawyer, nor do I put one on TV.
Please discuss the difference between Lyme exposure and Lyme disease. Many people don't understand that there is a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference, and sometimes it's really hard to tell where you are. So Lyme exposure technically means your dog has been bitten by a tick carrying Lyme and has formed antibodies to Lyme, the Lyme organism, the spirochete. Lyme disease, most people will use when they mean the dog is clinically affected, meaning showing symptoms, lameness, lethargy, what have you. So a lot of veterinarians feel you do not have to treat for exposure, only when you see clinical signs. I've been burned enough that I treat any dog that comes up positive. And, some vets don't agree with that. I just have had dogs break later with Lyme nephritis where it's affected the kidneys, or, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they're lame and not getting up in the morning. So I go ahead and treat aggressively. You can run an extra test called a C6 antibody level. That is a numerical measure of their antibody level. And that can be helpful. Anything over 30 is considered significant. I've seen dogs at, 29 that were symptomatic. I've seen dogs at 600 that were not symptomatic. But boy, I sure treated them when their antibody level was that high.
Mm-hmm.
So we know so much, we know so little.
Yeah, we're always learning.
Indeed.
Diane, this is a very interesting question. So what are your thoughts on the research indicating a possible relationship between tick and flea diseases like Bartonella and hemangiosarcoma in dogs?
I'm not sure I've heard about the hemangiosarcoma. Are you sure it's hemangiosarcoma? But co-infections with Lyme are a definite thing. And whether it's anaplasmosis, Ehrlichia, all sorts of other diseases seem to piggyback on Lyme. So again, we're learning. We know so little, but we know so much. And this is why a lot of people in heavy tick disease areas, they're not relying on that little snap test. They're sending out a full tick panel to one of the major labs where you're looking at 10 to 12 different tick-borne diseases.
So I did find a paper.
Put it in there so everybody can read it.
However, just so you guys know, it was put out by Purina. So I know that a lot of people will take.
You guys are smart enough to read through the BS and get good from it.
So it's like, Purina isn't all bad, but yeah, you do have to, really use your thoughts and make sure you're not being marketed to. But this is something about this is from golden retrievers, and this isn't. This is on the akcchf.org website.
AKC Canine Health Fund.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a research arm of AKC where they pay for different university projects. It's a good thing. But if any dog's going to have cancer, the poor golden retriever.
Yeah. And so Des says, I use flea free. It's effective with these crazy Florida fleas. Now again, there are a few now and again. I use a flea comb every day.
Yeah, and that's vigilance and awareness.
And here's another one for flea free. And plus, Diane puts garlic in her veggie mix grind. And keep in mind, you guys, with adding the garlic to the veggie mix grind, does not prevent fleas. We just learned this last year, I think, where it was just clarified that when you do the garlic, it has to be fresh garlic. Then you crunch it to bring out the ingredients that are going to act as the flea repellent and do all the other magical things in our dogs' bodies.
Yeah.
But you let it sit for 20 minutes, add it to your dog's food, feed it to your dogs. When I used to add fresh garlic to my dog's veggie mix, the problem is that then I toss it in a freezer and it sits in a freezer for a couple of months.
Yeah.
All the, the highlight of the benefits of this garlic are lost, or they've been greatly decreased. So,
so smash that clove right inside the bowl.
And just put it in a bowl, and build it up because it can be strong, or use the springtime granules.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, and Janet says, like if you test with Hemopet, they automatically do a C6 if you're positive, which is nice. That's good proactive diagnostic medicine.
And so, wow, Courtney says, I didn't know there were actual deterrents for flea and ticks.
Yeah. Oh, well, and I think I remember your other statement about the ticks biting the dog. Yeah, and the oral flea and tick meds, the tick has to bite the dog. Revolution, which is a spot on that goes into the bloodstream, the flea or the tick has to bite the dog. But Advantix, I know for sure. Frontline, I think it's also absorbed through the feet of the insect. And remember, these pesticides are insect neurotoxins, but a certain proportion of the insect's neurologic system is the same as that of mammals, which is where you get into these toxicity things. We're applying a neurotoxin to the skin. And that's the situation with the collar, with the orals, with even the spot-ons. One thing we didn't speak about in being proactive is strategies for your backyard. You kind of alluded to it, in your backyard is sunny. Ticks don't like sunny areas. Ticks want to hang out in the shade where the dew stays on the leaves of vegetation 12 to 18 inches high. So edge of the woods, that's tick haven. And what does your dog do? They run out the yard, go to the edge of the yard into the brush, stick their head in, sniff around, or they go in there to poop. So that's where the ticks are going to be hanging out. So keeping your hedges trimmed, your yard sunny, those areas somehow gated off from your dog, or God forbid you have to use a pesticide, that's where to apply it, not in the main sunny part of your lawn. So if you have to use chemicals, use them in a really smart way.
So Diane says that she used the tags last year and they seem to work.
Interesting. Good to know.
And I see that people are asking for, I just wanted to put this up here. Some people asked for the essential oils link, which is animaleo.info. Yeah. So animaleoessentialoils.info.
Yeah, and save money this weekend.
Yes.
Or should I say spend money this weekend?
So you mentioned changing how to detract fleas from our pets starts from within. Flea Free is a liquid supplement with free protection. I put it in her water. Yep. No fleas, but on occasion she may hit a grass patch with baby fleas. I then have to give her a bath.
Yeah. And perfect management. You know, we're not deluding ourselves into we're going to prevent every single one.
Right.
We're going to take it down to a minimum. Now, you know, I have seen different, basically there were body suits for dogs.
Oh, I saw those.
You saw those too.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're going somewhere where, you know, the ticks are loaded, and I think of the search and rescue dogs or potentially hunting dogs, working dogs that have to go there. Yeah, put them in a bodysuit. If the ticks can't get through the fabric, you've accomplished something.
Yeah.
And they can be made very lightweight, so for warm weather, they're not terrible.
And what about the amber collars that people talk about? I've been hearing mixed messages. Some people say they swear by them, they work. Other people are like, yeah, nothing happened.
To me, amber is jewelry, so I'm very skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them are attractive, and as anybody who's been talking to me about my puppy recently, she has 3 collars on order. Mm-hmm. 3 very different fancy schmancy collars, none of them with amber. Mm. But I'm not optimistic about them helping.
And what about the Lyme vaccine?
70% effective. One of our more reactive vaccines. It's very challenging to make a vaccine against a bacteria, which Lyme is. It's very easy to make a vaccine, comparatively, that is, to a virus like parvovirus or like the rabies virus. Mm-hmm. So you know you're not going to have great efficacy. You know you're not going to get long immunity from one dose. And it's not going to do anything for the other tick-borne diseases, mm-hmm. Plasmosis, Ehrlichia, Babesia, Rocky Mountain. So my focus is on tick management.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
Bang for my buck there.
And then one of my favorite questions.
You go, girl.
Because we haven't answered this question in months. Isn't garlic toxic for dogs? No. That is a horrible myth that's been perpetuated, along with raw meat is bad for dogs. Raw bones are bad for dogs. Ultimately, it comes to how you feed it. If you are going to go to the store and buy a bag, say with 10, bulbs of garlic, mash it all up and put it into your dog's bowl, you will harm your dog. However, the amount that people suggest giving dogs, or like the amount that's on the Springtime Granules bottle, which is a pet product, is such a teeny amount, it will not harm your dogs. And a while ago, I tried to find a video that Dana Scott did for Dogs Naturally magazine 100 years ago, where she explained and showed you like visual of this is how much garlic you would have to feed a golden retriever of this weight in order for or maybe a Labrador retriever in order to hurt them. And it's a lot. I mean, it's nothing any rational person would do. The amount that we're talking is all beneficial for the immune system.
A fraction of a clove.
Yeah. I mean, there are going to be some exceptions. There are certain things that like you don't give it to a puppy or things like that. But that stuff that you can quickly learn about. I wish I can remember the name of the book, but there is a book that goes into the dosages. But so it does the same on my website.
Becker did. You can look it up.
Yeah.
He did it in a video not all that long ago.
So thank you, Vanessa, for asking that question, because it's a common misconception, and it's so important to bring that up and explain that to people. Kim, while tea tree oil, it is somewhat of a myth that tea tree oil is toxic to pets, specifically cats, the toxicity comes with the sourcing and formulating of the product. So I would never, ever buy just random tea tree oil at a store or order it from some website when it's meant for humans and then use it on my animals or around my animals. I would just leave that alone. When it comes to my dogs and my cat, I now just stick with Animalia, because I know for a fact that these products have been formulated by a holistic veterinarian specifically to use with animals. And she actually uses them with birds, horses, dogs, and cats. So I would not spray tea tree oil on a dog. If you want to get an essential oil to put on your dog in order to repel fleas, I recommend the Oust, the Evict, or the Away that is formulated by Animalio. And that's something where unless you're getting the neat, and I don't even know if a neat is available, but you shouldn't have to create a spray formula. You can just put it on your dog.
It's ready to use as it comes.
Yeah. If you do want to spray, because some people do prefer a spray, it's a lot easier to use. I recommend Kin and Kind, and it's Kin plus Kind, Kind. And I'll find the website right now.
Good, good. Yeah, it's nice to have a product that's, you know, ready to use right off the shelf that you don't have to muck about with.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about it. So here it is. And this is for dogs and cats. So I mean,
yeah, cats in general are more sensitive to everything. So do use caution. And, you know, Dr. Shelton is an excellent resource when it comes to the proper use of essential oils with animals. There are loads of essential oil companies out there with varying levels of knowledge and product quality and quality control.
Yeah, so Diane uses mosquito barrier. It also works with fleas and ticks. Wondercide, their products are fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes as well. However, I wouldn't count on it alone. I mean, it's like—
and they have some yard products that I've had clients like. So, you know, again, something that they have to spray the yard because of the amount of bugs they're dealing with. But that's a nice non-pesticide choice. If you get chickens.
Yeah, I know. That's what I love. Get some chickens and they'll eat.
Get something, get a predator.
Yep.
That's my new line. I need a t-shirt. Make me a t-shirt. Get a predator.
I switched from Wondercide and Cedarside because Wondercide slightly changed the ingredients in their product. And at the time there was like someone tried to file a class action lawsuit against them or something. Really? And I didn't know what was going on, but I was just like, you know what? I'm not here for it. Let me just I keep hearing about Kin and Kind. I actually asked people, and this is a moment where if Diane's still watching, this is on you. I asked people, what can I use instead? And everyone came up with Kin and Kind or Oust, Away, and Evict by Animalio. And so that was when I actually
rotate amongst products.
Yeah.
That may discourage, you know, if the ticks could develop tolerance to one product, you've got another one in your rotation.
Yeah. Nematodes is another one too. Now, I've also heard mixed messages about this. People will go and buy the nematodes or you order them online and nothing happened, nothing changed, whereas other people swear by them. So I don't have a clear—
But, you know, there's no harm to putting nematodes in your yard.
Yeah.
The worst you can do is not work.
Nice. So if a dog gets Lyme disease, is it curable?
Most dogs recover from symptomatic Lyme with no problem, but a small percentage have lasting damage, whether it be joint problems. Kidney problems are the classic, especially in Goldens. Some people, you know, there's cardiac Lyme, there's neuro Lyme, but I would say 90% no problem. Maybe higher than that, depending on your area.
Vanessa says that her friend, who is a vet, said that the garlic bioaccumulates in the body, so it builds up over time, and that garlic damages their red blood cells. And what are your thoughts on this?
Well, that's the mechanism of garlic toxicity. Yes, it affects red blood cells. I don't think that it bioaccumulates, though. I'd love to see a reference on that. And again, it's dosage related. If garlic was so bad, the Springtime Supplement Company would have been sued and dead 20 years ago.
Especially right now where everyone is so quick to shut this stuff down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh, Janet's mentioning about that taste in the mouth after petting the dogs. That happens to me too. When there's a strong something that's a smell, I literally taste it.
Yeah.
And I feel your pain.
So Courtney says, what is a reliable source of information to learn how to rid ticks in your area? Where I am, which is Wisconsin, we have deer, dog in South Illinois, Lone Star. How do you focus on the ticks around my area? Is there a one size fits all when getting rid of ticks when it comes to products?
Some products are tested against certain species of ticks and not others. So that's why it'll say effective against the brown dog tick. I believe it's the University of Rhode Island that has a tick research center. So I would check out their website. And I would also be talking to, entomologists and like I don't want to say landscape architects, but people who deal with, I don't know, forestry, soils, bug environments, if you will.
And then also just your neighbors and friends.
Yeah.
I mean, just start talking, hopefully there's a community of dog lovers in your area, whether it be through your vet's office, through a training center, or through groomers, whatever the case may be. Groomers would probably be a really great resource to talk about what are people doing and what has been effective.
But I think what Courtney's talking about is more her environment. So I'm thinking of the land around her home.
Right. Any insights on the EM collars?
Never heard of them.
Effective microorganisms. I've never heard of those. I feel like I have heard of them, but not much.
No,
it just
I've never heard of them.
So, this is what you're talking about, the wonder side, but I had a bitter taste in my mouth after petting the dogs. Yep. Oh, but she also says nematodes will decrease the pests over time. So if you're adding them now and you're disappointed because nothing happened, let's look at next year or the year after.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's an interesting point. Thank you, Janet.
Well, and it makes sense. We've got to get established and reproduce and everything.
Right. So Diane claims that she nicely mentioned Animalio about 100 times. And I will concur that she was very nice when she mentioned them about 100 times.
Yeah.
So yeah, fresh ground, let's see. Oh, I just lost it. Fresh ground garlic, only according to Dr. Karen Becker, otherwise not as effective.
Yeah, that's that video that she and Rod did somewhere.
About
within the past year, it's been out.
Did they like testing?
What?
Or just talking about testing it or talking about it?
Talking about how to use it.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
Yeah, some of this stuff we've hit already. Sorry, guys. Ugh.
Yeah, this is another great point. What Des that says that garlic is also a blood thinner. So if you have a dog that's anemic, not really a good thing to add to the dog's diet. So is there a supplement for detox that should be given if using a topical? I used to use milk thistle.
Yeah, remember, if it's a true topical, it's not penetrating more than just the fatty layer of the skin. So you need to detox from that. If you were using something like Revolution that does penetrate the body, then yeah, chlorella, milk thistle, anything that would support liver and liver function would be great.
Oh, this is a good idea. Vanessa says, someone suggested using a lint roller on her dog after doing a tick-infested area. Would this work well to get them off of my dog, or would they have crawled under the fur down to the skin by then?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, lint rollers are fabulous.
Yeah.
And they work on my Aussies. As long as it's not attached, you're going to come off it with sticky tape. It's going to come off on your sticky tape.
That's nice. That's pretty cool. So, so we're coming up on an hour, and I want to just wrap this up because I know that these are long, and actually it drives me crazy when someone does a super long video over on YouTube because I'm impatient. So let's wrap this up. I want to say thank you guys for joining us. If you are concerned about Seresto collars, I want to
go to my blog. I put literally it's 3 paragraphs. If you have a problem with a Seresto collar, how to report it.
Is this in that post?
It's not in that post. It's a separate one. It's the most recent one.
Okay, I'm going to find it right now.
If you just go to Healthy Dog Workshop and scroll down, the links are there for EPA, for the consumer, and for the veterinarian. And there's also something called the National Pesticide something that you can actually phone them up if you need help on how to report things. It'll be there.
Okay, so
walk you
added the link to the comments, you guys, so if you want to check that out. But thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
So is Rodney coming to the expo with his new book?
Wouldn't you like to know?
So, I mean, the book comes out in September.
Rodney will be at the expo.
Yep. So, you guys have a great Saturday, and thanks for joining us.